it's leveraged business. You get to leverage time, their money, and all their resources I get to leverage. So I get to do what I love. And then I have so much time in between to focus on the relationships I want to focus on, to focus on my church that I want to focus on, and maybe ministries and giving and whatever it may be, because I have set up all this leveraged income and this wealth around.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Today, I get to sit down with one of my good buddies, Dustin Hoog. Now, Dustin's a real estate agent, an investor, and a coach who spent over a decade helping people build wealth through property investing over in St. Louis. He went from losing everything, literally having his car taken out of his driveway, to owning a massive portfolio and helping others flip their first properties with zero experience. But here's what makes Dustin's story so powerful. It isn't just his financial success. It's his journey of prioritizing what truly matters. Look, in this episode, we're going to dive deep into the myth of freedom versus flexibility. And this is like why the idea of complete freedom in entrepreneurship happens to be a lie, and why you should be optimizing for flexibility instead. We're going to talk about work-life integration over work-life balance, and how Dustin and his wife successfully run multiple businesses together without letting it destroy their marriage, including a brilliant topic Dustin shared with us called Put It on the List. You're not going to want to miss that. Building generational wealth the right way, Dustin talks about why he's buying his kids one rental property every year starting at the age of 3, and how he plans to teach them hustle instead of entitlement. Look, you got to make sure you stick around to the very end, because Dustin drops a powerful perspective shift on the single saddest thing you'll find in a cemetery, and how you can use that right now to stop living a life of regret. You're not going to want to miss this one. So let's get into it.
All right, kids, we today have, again, another one of my buddies, my friends. And I'm starting to realize, like, as I hear it over and over again, I was like, do I only bring on my friends? Well, at first, this podcast is new. So I'm going after the people that I know that I really want to have an opportunity to share the stories. And today, Dustin Hoog is one of my good buddies here, coming out of St. Louis. He's a real estate agent, investor, coach. He spent over a decade helping everyday people build wealth through property and investing. He's been a realtor since 2013. Currently leads the STL Home Solutions team and created something called the P2 Blueprint. I'm sure he'll talk a little bit more about that step-by-step design to help people flip their first property within 6 months, even with zero experience. No, this isn't that kind of a webinar. This isn't a pitch to the course. So stay tuned. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. So beyond real estate, Dustin also was a co-creator, co-founder of a group that I was a part of called the Balanced Business Dad. And that movement was built around the 6 pillars of faith, health, marriage, fatherhood, brotherhood, and business. And that movement was anchored in the belief that a thriving business shouldn't come at the cost of your family. Ironically, similar, really weird. The turning point, though, he talks about, even in his own words, was when he took the leap of going self-employed. And that the decision forced him to truly become who he was forced to be, as a man, a husband, and a father. And it became the foundation of everything that he now teaches. Listen, our conversations have always been really deep and fulfilling. And I'm just grateful that we have the opportunity to kind of record it now and put it out there and have it live a life all on its own. Dustin, I've talked enough. Tell us a little bit more.
Well, honestly, I could just listen to you introduce me all day. It's always such a pat on the back when other people introduce you. But no, first of all, appreciate being here. Appreciate us being able to record. Sometimes it's always scary that you're going to record a conversation with one of your close confidants.
We just had a 5-minute convo before I hit record that, like, it was so good. I'm sitting here going, man, we should have recorded that. However, someone's parents might be coming after us.
It'll be fine. We won't name names. But no, like Matt said, so first and foremost, I'm a husband and I'm a father, and then I'm a coach. I am very active in a lot of different facets of real estate. Got my license in 2013 as an agent. Went full-time into the business in 2014. I owned part of a family-owned brokerage for a while. I started coaching for major corporations. Then I got into investing, and I owned up to 75 single-family houses. We flipped over 100 properties. And now coaching a lot in the real estate investing space, along with a lot of other businesses and people in general. I have 2 kids, a 9-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl, and been married since 2015. So that's me in a nutshell.
Boom. Well, let's just jump into it. Let's get into the leap. You had mentioned that one of the biggest turning points in your life and your business was going self-employed. And most people talk about that moment like it's exciting, But I suspect especially since the way that you kind of mentioned earlier, that it was less than exciting, maybe more terrifying. What was actually happening in your life when you decided to make that decision, and what did you almost not do it?
Yeah. So great question. So I need to back up a little bit because I went self-employed a couple times, like almost too young. Like I opened a business at 18 fixing computers. So did that for a while. I then got into sales and I went to college and went into associate's degree, went into college, couldn't find a job after that. So I went into sales. Then I bought a bar at 23. So I guess that's, going out on my own. First of all, don't do that. Let's just go ahead and say that. If you take any advice from me, don't buy a bar when you're 23. Don't buy a bar in your home.
Nothing could go wrong.
5,000 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing or everything will go wrong and you'll be bankrupt within a year. So but then the next time I went self-employed and really took the leap, it was 9 months before my wife and I were getting married. And it was an interesting time. So all of 2013 or all of 2014, I guess, I was a account executive for an advertising company, a marketing company. And it was a gravy job. I mean, well over 6 figures. Benefits were amazing. Like life was just great. And then December of 14, I was also a real estate agent doing okay. December of 14, I was recruited to a very large team in St. Louis, the number one team by leaps and bounds in St. Louis, to go on their team full time. So the conversation then was to my fiance, as I know we're getting married in 9 months and this very cush, very secure, very amazing job I have, I'm just going to go ahead and quit that. And that's what it was. And the cool part about that story is my wife comes from an entrepreneurial family, and she believed in me. Maybe she should have, maybe she shouldn't, because we went through a lot of ups and downs since then. I joined that team only for 3 months and then went completely solo after that. And it's like, I just got to keep my head down and work. That's when I discovered coaching. That's when I got my first coach, actually, and started doing it. Got married, and we've had ups and downs, crazy amount of times in the entrepreneurial world. Mm-hmm. Yet, looking back at the story, I could never imagine where we are today back then. And that was pretty cool.
Right on.
Yeah.
A lot of guys, they go in and start building a business, and then they look up and realize that their marriage and their relationships with their kids are on life support. Did you ever go through a version of that? And if so, what was your wake-up call?
I don't know if we ever went through necessarily a version of that, because really since 2022, my wife's been a part of the business, right? Which definitely kind of changes that dynamic a little bit, because it's not like I'm in my own world over here and the marriage is separate. So almost by accident, it became very quickly work-life integration versus work-life balance. And I'm a huge, huge proponent of that. My kids are very active in our businesses. They've walked houses with me. They've went on showings with me. I promise my son has walked more investment properties than most investors out there and can spot things. So it was never, I was over here working while everything else was falling apart over here per se. Now, I will say there's also been a different dynamic of the marriage might be struggling or has room for growth because both of us are working so much in the same business. And that opens up a whole bunch of doors and a whole bunch of other challenges and opportunities that you can get better at to learn from.
I want to spend a little bit more time here, and I'd love for you to share a little bit more about how you and Jenna intentionally keep business and your marriage and your relationship separate. Like, how do you navigate and ensure that every day and all day is not just a business meeting?
Yeah. And well, first of all, I'll say it's an absolute work in progress. Mm-hmm. Like that is something that we catch ourselves often on, because any decisions made in the businesses, we are talking throughout the day about it. So it's something that we work on. Now, a lot of times we do schedule what I call a level 10 meeting from the book Traction. Every week we have a level 10 meeting to go over things, what's going on in the businesses. Any decision that can wait goes till then. So that helps by having scheduled time to when to talk about business. Because, guys, I'm just going to let you know something. If your wife is cooking dinner and kids are being crazy and there's stuff going on, wrong time to bring stuff up that you want to have a decision made on. Learn that. Or
how'd you discover that?
Well, honestly, it takes me a long time to learn things. But what we realized from that, and when I'm done working for the day, like I don't want to talk anymore after that time, even though now the house is closed, she has more capacity, if you will, to talk about it. I'm like, no, I'm done. Like now it's not talk about time. So we learned and we coined the phrase, which I would recommend everyone getting this, and that's called put it on the list, which again is from the book Traction. Try to, run our businesses a little bit on the EOS system, but the list is an IDS list, which stands for identify, discover, and solve. And in heads of departments and things like that, they should run their team that way. And I'm like, well, we are doing that. So why wouldn't we have that same thing? So then when I want to say something and I want to have this conversation right now, she'll look at me and just say, put it on the list. And I've learned this is not a time to try to push that conversation on. But I'm at ease because I know we have time scheduled to talk about it.
That's a huge tip. And in fact, I'm probably going to grab this from today's call and introduce it into our world. Cause I don't know if you guys are like me, like right when we're ready to shut things down and go to bed, that's when my wife loves to have all of the conversations about all of the most important things that require a lot of bandwidth. And I've already completely shut off and I'm like, oh man, I really want to validate you in this conversation, but I'm toast. Right. Yeah. She's like, I know we don't want to talk about it right now. However, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, hey, let's get this list going. I'm gonna pull that. Thanks for sharing that tactical strategy there.
Go ahead.
No, go.
What I've realized is I want us to work better together. So that is kind of my mission, my next mission. I don't know if we plan on talking about that or not, but my next mission is to figure out and to help other spouses eventually how to work better together. Because there is a lot of small to medium-sized business owners that are in business together. And it is first of all, it's the most amazing thing ever. Now you're building a life together and now you're building something bigger together. That is awesome to be on the same mission. And it is a very hard, fine line to walk, right? So my goal and mission is for us to get better at that, of course, and then to help other couples get better at that.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. In the marriage and business aspect of kind of the frameworks that you talk about in the Balanced Business Dad, you describe yourself though as husband first. Mm-hmm. What does your wife see in you now that she didn't see in the version of you before you took the leap? And what did it cost for her to stick around and figure it out?
I don't know, honestly, to ask her that question, to say, hey, what do you see differently? I mean, we've grown so much together in it. It wasn't, personal development has been a huge part of my life since 2015. It's taken, I don't want to say taken her longer, but she wasn't exposed to as much personal development as I was. But nowadays she is exposed to that much personal development. So now it's cool that we're both growing on a level. I have a lot much more of it. I have coaches and things like that in my life where she necessarily doesn't, but we're growing together at the same time. So I don't know if I can ask what she sees differently.
How do you see yourself differently?
How I see myself differently is, I'm learning all the mistakes I've made. There's so much more clarity in my life, through everything. It's the awareness of my not so strengths, right? Like what are my weaknesses in a lot of different things? And what I've realized is my weaknesses in business that I've discovered a lot of times are my weaknesses at home too. For example, what we were talking about before, I can be a little bit of a hothead, right? I go to 0 to turbo really fast. And so doing that in business, obviously I can also do that at home. So finding these awarenesses and clarity around who you are can help your business grow, scale, whatever you're looking to do in your business, but it can also help you in your household. And what I would say the biggest thing that we've learned is you have to start with what you want your life to look like. So I coach big time on what your vision is. And everybody thinks goals first, but it's so much more than goals. Like I'm talking like in 5 years, what do you want your Tuesday to look like? And nobody's really talking about going that granular. Well, why not? You're the one that gets to decide that and describe how you want your life to look like. So I go deep on the vision because we've went deep on the vision work and we've seen where it's got us.
Yeah, I love that. Right. Like being able to go to the gym at 1:00 on a Tuesday is a flex I never expected. Like it's nice to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and take this time for me and I'm going to go. And the 1:00 gym crowd is a lot different than the 5 a.m. gym crowd.
Right.
It's a whole different group. I'd like to circle into, an area of what you've created that I got to be a part of that really resonated with me was also one of the beginnings of me putting together my thoughts around, the entrepreneur's regret and the no regrets blueprint. And that was the balanced business dad. So
Yeah.
talk to me about how that came to be and what's the story behind the origin of that?
Yeah. Well, like all good stories, it started in a bar, one night in a bar. And that's the honest to God truth. So the co-founder of it, if you will, really interesting, him and I's relationship. He's exactly 20 years my senior. So I'm closer to his kid's age than I am him. Right. He has adult kids, and I was actually coaching him in real estate. Him and I used to work together at the marketing company. And then I was coaching him in real estate on how to buy and have rentals and stuff like that. And we became very close. And it was after a real estate investment meetup one night. We were over at the bar, having dinner, having a couple drinks. And we just started talking about these things in life. Like life is good, but but we know that's the enemy of great. So it kind of came up, well, what does great mean? And how do we do this? And at that time I was coaching so many people where their business was always what was way up here. And it was the thing that might've been suffering. Everything else was suffering because their business was put up here. So we started literally writing on bar napkins. Like, well, what should have more of your focus, or how should you balance it, if you will? What should be your primary focus? And that's where we came up with the 6 pillars in that order, because in our opinion, that order made more sense. Him and I are both faith-based people. So faith was a huge part of that. But faith, health, like I can't be anyone without my health. And that has been an absolute journey for me that we can get into if you want. But faith, health, marriage. I mean, how many times do we see, especially when there's kids, that the marriage takes the back burner and everything goes towards the kids? Again, he was 20 years my senior. So some of the mistakes I don't want to make, or I don't even know that I might be making someday, he's already made them. So it's like, hey, we're going to focus on the marriage. Then we're going to focus on being the right father we want to be. And then the brotherhood aspect of things. I'm blessed. I have really, really close friends that I've had literally since 3rd grade. I thought everyone had that. I was wrong.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, interesting. So that's where the brotherhood concept came from. So like when I have a problem, I can immediately, last night, all the stuff going on that we talked about before the call, I immediately was reaching out to them because I have that connection. I didn't realize that other men didn't have that.
Yeah.
Right. And then the business. And what we found through that, if you prioritize each one of those pillars in order, your business kind of takes care of itself.
It's interesting is as I'm looking at your list of 6, right? Like we've got our 3 main pillars here of leadership, love, and life. And when I look at this, you have them prioritized, spiritual and mental health, physical health first.
Yeah.
Then your relationships, right? Your marriage, your fatherhood, your brotherhood, the 3 core relationships, right? With your spouse, your kids, and your sphere. And then last is business. And most people get it flipped. Most people think that they got to focus on the business, and then in order to have a better marriage and a better relationship with their kids. And then eventually, once they get things in order, then they'll get to their health, et cetera. And yet that's the issue with all the problems that we have, right? So most people would say like, well, I don't have time to focus on all 6. Like, why 6? That's so many. What would you say to them?
Well, first of all, time stands for that is my excuse.
Oh, stop. Say it again.
Time stands for that is my excuse.
Yikes.
Time is it should be one of the coolest things in the world because it makes us all even. You do not have more than 24 hours a day. Neither do I. So that's time makes us equal, right? That's the cool part about time. Now, it's how do we manage ourselves in that time? Wake up earlier, right? I can focus on my faith, my health, and a lot of times my marriage before 6 a.m. And I'm not talking necessarily, deep conversations with my wife, but I can do a little things in her love language before she wakes up, right? Me and God, we put a lot of miles in together every morning. Like that is just me walking with God, right? So you can combine some of these, you can stack these habits, if you will, and then you just schedule it. Like I don't, when somebody says they don't have time, I don't believe it. Now, is it more challenging for some people? Absolutely. Right? It just is. But that doesn't mean you can't find the time. Right? You can find leverage in your life somehow to be able to do what you want to do. And a lot of times, maybe it's just waking up earlier, which also means
which is a choice.
Yeah.
And some people just aren't willing to make a choice that's uncomfortable in the short term for a bigger long-term payout. I get like, man,
Absolutely.
I get it. I get it. You know, as you know, as one of your friends, and as you know, as I kind of watch you grow in all of the areas that you discussed, you're super intentional with your time with your family. So much so that you've got a certain amount of vacations that get scheduled at the beginning of each year first, and that like when you're gone, you're gone. Talk about how did you develop that? What did it take for you to get so intentional around it? What's kind of your belief system around that? Right? Because I grew up, we never took vacations. We went on trips to visit family. And it was never like just for us. Like we never went anywhere just as a family for us. That was like out of nowhere. And I don't resent it. I just didn't know anything different until I grew up. And it was like, oh, these moments are really critical. And so we take some time to get real intentional about our vacations too. So what was it like for you?
Yeah. And, I would love to say I was so purposeful in creating that life. And I don't know if I was it, knowing what I know now, right? Now are very purposeful today around it. But, we did take vacations as a family. Up till a certain point, I never took vacations. My dad married my stepmom. Then we started taking vacations. And they were great vacations, family vacations. Most of the time, we were Disney kids. They really liked Disney World. So we did that a lot. And I knew we always wanted to travel. My wife and I's relationship has a lot of traveling in it before the kids, with the kids, everything like that. It's just something that we enjoy a lot of. So it's like, all right, how to keep that going was a priority to us. I am also one, you schedule it, and this is what my advice to you. I would go schedule your vacations and I would go commit to them, because then you're going to find the money for it. And that's what so many hold people back, is the money, right?
Mhm.
I'm a guy that if I paid for it, now I have to figure it out. Like I put myself against the wall a lot of times because that's how I perform more. So vacation is the same way. Is I'm just going to go plan it. I'm going to go pay for it. And now I figure out where the money comes from. That's not the best financial advice. I'm sure Dave Ramsey would be, slapping me upside the head.
He's not a
But
sponsor, so you can say whatever you want.
I heard it though, if you say his name, like it starts getting, everybody going, and he might show you. But, for us, that's what it came to be. Now, part of my vision of life is I can work anywhere in the world. Right? Because I enjoy working. So, several times now we will be on vacation somewhere and I'll take coaching calls while we're on vacation. Like my wife and the kids go hang out and stuff like that, because it energizes me. My work energizes me. And then I get to go right back with the family. So now I'm energized. I'm not stressing of what I'm missing, and we're all get to be on vacation. And I think that's a real crucial thing, is if you stress when you're on vacation, which I know so many people do, then take time on your vacation where you can do whatever you need to do and then go enjoy the time. Again, it's that work-life integration. It's not work-life balance.
You have a different relationship with money that most people have.
Sure.
How did you develop your mindset around money? And has it always been the way it is today?
No, I don't think it's always been the same how it is. My relationship with money came because I've lost everything. And you realize you didn't lose anything. And when I mean lost everything, I'm talking like they took my house, they took my car out of my driveway. Like they took it all. Like I went bankrupt after owning the bar, and it wasn't that bad of an experience. And I look back and I could have been like, oh, woe is me. I failed, blah, 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 blah. But I just I don't know, just kept going. So because of that, I think I'm overly confident that I can always create money. Now I've proven to myself that money is a renewable resource. Like if my kids needed some kind of thing, or my wife needs some kind of thing, I can go make it. There's zero doubt in my mind. Now, and legally, I can go make it, by the way.
Good
There's,
qualifier.
yeah, I'm sure there's ways illegally too, but let's just say illegally, because I've proven that part to myself. I've messed up. I've messed up more with money than most people have succeeded with money. And I think that's where my mindset around money comes from.
That's wild. Money happens to be one of those conversations that's at the crux of a lot of resistance and resentment in relationships. Do you feel like your mindset around money is an asset to the relationships, or is it a liability?
I think I want to push back on that a little bit.
Okay.
I think money is the smoke, if you will, in that conversation.
Okay.
I believe the fire is security. And what I've realized, and in the balance business, Ed, I don't know if you remember us, we did the challenge where the goal was go ask your wife, what is their security number? What is the number that you feel secure having in the bank? And I don't know if you remember that or what your wife's was, but 95% of the wives had a number immediately in their head, right? They just had a number, right? So it's more than just the bank account. It's a feeling that they need. And I went in deep into that and interviewed several people, and women aren't secure. They don't feel safe in a lot of situations, walking to cars sometimes. Like there's this unsafe feeling, and having money or knowing what's going on with money can create that safety feeling, right? So that's what I would say is the money's the smoke. What's the fire around that? And dig deep into if there's a money conflict right now, figure out what the security is. And so much of it that I've coached is based off of the programming where they've seen their parents lose everything, or their dad took all the money, or whatever it may be, and they never want to be in that situation. So there's this unsafe feeling. Now, to answer your question, is my mindset around money and asset or liability? The answer is yes.
Okay. Can you give an example of each?
Sure. I mean, I just am getting out of a pretty large failed business. Went into business in a company and an industry I shouldn't have had. It was more that I bought a job where I thought I was buying a business, and I made mistakes all the way around it. And could it have been successful? Absolutely. But the old adage of what's the worst that can happen? I never think of that. That's the liability in me. I always think of what's the best that's going to happen.
Yeah. Because you're driven you're optimized for optimism. And as an entrepreneur, we always believe our effort can surpass anything.
Correct. And so that was a liability, and it's costing me a lot of money. Right now, the asset side of things, because of my mindset around money, given enough time, I can fix any problem.
Yep.
Right. So I know that. So I just need to go to work.
So you work with a lot of individuals on helping them begin to or unlock the opportunity through wealth, or with wealth through real estate investing. I mean, I want you to talk about how you're able to take people using like your P2 blueprint, which is, look, I think if anybody's watching this and listening to this, you've probably stumbled upon some type of funnel ad or whatever that somebody's promising you like wealth through real estate. And maybe I've seen so many people just take course after course after course after course, and they've done nothing. They've spent as much as if they would have bought a house and invested, and yet they haven't done anything. And yet your stuff is so different because you actually take people from nothing to a deal with no experience, like really, really quickly. How did you discover that those are your people and this was your method?
So I think to back that up is what I believe one of the things God has blessed me in big time is I'm able to help people stop learning and start doing. And I think so much of that is going deep into the why, right? That vision. Why do we want this? Why do we want this? So many people I talk to, if you say, what is your vision of life? I would put $1,000 on it today that they're going to tell me what they don't versus what they do want. So I go deep into this part well before I'm teaching you the mechanics of real estate. I go deep into this part, but what if? What if you could do this? And really start thinking like an Imagineer, right? Where there is no filters. So to help people start with that. So we start with the vision aspect of things. Then we go into the implementation aspect of things. What is the strategy to get you to where this is? Because it's not my vision. Like you might just want to flip houses. You might just want to do rentals. You might want to do Airbnb or midterm or multifamily, whatever it is. We have to figure out what the vision is and then the implementation strategy around it. Yeah. And the implementation strategy is, all right, how are we going to do this? What's the mechanics around this? And we go deep into the strategy. What needs to happen every day? How do you react? Everything like that. And then it's the accountability around that. And it's not just accountable to me, although you pay me to be your coach and I'm going to hold you accountable to your goals. It's accountability to your family, but it's accountability to yourself, right? Everybody talks about, I love being self-employed because I don't have a boss. That's bull. Your goal and vision is your boss. That's who you're accountable to.
Say that one more time for those that are under the hallucination that real estate is all about the freedom and the money and the et cetera. Let's say that one more time. Who's your boss?
Yeah. So your vision and your goals are your boss.
Oof.
And you
Bars.
mentioned the word that it hurts so bad, and that's freedom. Because really, we're not looking for freedom. We're looking for flexibility, right? That's what most of us are looking for. Let's look at some of the biggest producers or big name or whatever it is that you know. What does freedom mean to you? They all have responsibilities. We have the opportunity to have responsibilities.
Yeah.
Responsibilities are a blessing, but we're not free. Like, I chose to have a wife. That doesn't make me free. I chose to have kids. You know who's free? Is the homeless guy on the corner. They don't have responsibilities. We do, right? It's flexibility. I can go work out at 1:00 if I choose to. I can drop anything because my kid's school called, right? That's flexibility. I can't, book the vacations I want to. That's flexibility, but I'm going to take some phone calls while I'm on vacation because that's how I work it, right? We're not looking for freedom. We're looking for flexibility. And freedom has been this word that has been sold by social media influencers and gurus, and it makes me sick because half of them I know and half of them are a lot busier than I am, right? They're not that free. Right. They have these they have overhead. I mean, 6-figure overhead a month. Really? That's a lot of responsibility. That's not a flex to me. That flex is going to the gym at 1:00.
Yeah. How have you been able to leverage your wealth creation to becoming more present in all the areas of your?
So, because I always know something's coming in. So we right now run a portfolio of real estate, single family houses, about 40-ish properties. That's constantly growing, but that's leverage. That's a leverage business. Like, I still manage it. My wife runs the operations, but I still oversee and have the vision for it and everything like that. But it's leveraged business. Our flips are leveraged business. Like, I'll talk to our contractor, give them the scope of work. I pay them bills, but I'm not doing the work. I get to leverage time, their money, and all their resources I get to leverage. So I get to do what I love. And then I have so much time in between to focus on the relationships I want to focus on, to focus on my church that I want to focus on, and maybe ministries and giving and whatever it may be, because I have set up all this leveraged income and this wealth around it.
Yeah. You talk about work-life integration. And, one of the core principles of the Balanced Business Dad, of the No Regrets Blueprint, is you don't have to sacrifice a thriving and wildly successful business and relationships that you could only dream of, and, kids that actually want to spend time with you, and a body that you love looking at in the mirror, et cetera, et cetera. How do you incorporate the integration with, and I'd love for you to just kind of share with the community, because I know like how intentional you are with your kids and how you're teaching them and how you're creating legacy with them and through them in real estate.
Yeah. So, well, there's a few things. Our kids are very active in the business, right? And again, I want to say that was purposeful and I planned that from the beginning, or was it because there was no other option? If I needed to grow this business, the kids had to come along. So sometimes things happen when you don't know they're happening. I think there might have been a little bit of that. Like, well, we have to go look at this house and our kids are here and we don't have a babysitter for 20 minutes. So we're just going to take them with us. But then through that, and I remember the conversation very well, it was after our daughter was born. It's like, man, maybe we should start investing in their future, whether it's college or 529 or the market. I'm not a fan of the market because I can't control it like I can control real estate. So I remember where we were driving. I remember the car we were in. And I was like, well, why don't we just start buying them houses? So we did. I actually just posted my son's 6th rental we bought yesterday.
How old is he now?
He's 9.
I want everybody to hear that.
Yeah. So he is 9. Our plan is to buy each of our kids one house per year from ages 3 to 18. So they'll have 15 rental properties by the time they're 18.
Yeah, so screw those Nerf guns and all their bullshit that they get at Christmas. Just get them a house.
Knowing the strategy around investing in real estate and the Burr model and everything like that, it's like, why wouldn't we do this? Now, I obviously own the LLC and all that stuff, and there will be taxes and all sorts of stuff when we transfer ownership over to them. But those houses, that revenue, that cash flow are earmarked for them. So what that also gives us the freedom to do if Jen and I in 10 years are like, yeah, we're done, we're cashing out, they still have their nest egg, if you will.
How
We
do
can go
you
on the beach.
how do you ensure that they don't like turn into entitlement, right? Like we hear about all these trust fund kids, and I'm sure you've dealt with some trust fund individuals, and like how do you navigate that? How do you maintain their humility? How do you maintain their hustle?
Prayer. No, because I don't know how well we're doing at that, right? It's something that we look at a lot.
Yeah.
You know, my parents were divorced parents, so my life was kind of split down the middle in upper to middle class to lower to middle class, and quite a huge difference. But like on the weekends, it was lower to middle class. On the weekdays, it was upper to middle class. So I got to see this crazy world of both sides, and I think it made me a very well-rounded individual. I never want my kids to see the things that I saw as on the lower middle class spectrum, if you will. Right. So how do you teach them around that? And that is tough. Right. I don't know if I have the answers to that. Now, you try to explain work to them. We bought a campground and they work there a lot and they see us kind of struggle a little bit. Again, don't necessarily recommend that. But, I think what it is show them what work means and show them the work that it takes for you to do. Right. Don't hinder them. Well, I can't show them things. No, bring them involved. And that goes back to the integration. I think a lot of for lack of a better word, the trust fund kids, as you talked about, the people who own those trust funds are working extremely hard. And versus bringing their kids along, they just sheltered them from the work and they sheltered them from the stress. So I would say don't shelter them from the work and don't shelter them from the stress.
Yeah.
And I hope that's what's going to help and make their asses work. I mean, as soon as Brody and Rhea, my kids, can get a job, they're going to have a job. Like we're talking 14, 15.
They already have jobs. You're talking about working for somebody else.
Yeah. I think they do better if they work for somebody else too.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Right. I mean, you and Jenna have done some pretty incredible things. Right. I'd love for you to kind of dive into a little bit more about what you're working on moving forward, especially with couples.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So the organization, I think, again, talking about how I manage time, a lot of brainstorming at 5 a.m. when you're out by yourself walking, and the word built together was laid on my heart. It's truly how I can say it was. And it's of couples working together. And I'm like, and I do it the reason why I wanted to learn how to do it better. And the best way to do that is interviewing other people that are doing it. Right. And then start getting clarity and awareness. And we learned that you were on his podcast not too long ago, Larry Hagner with the Balanced Business the Dad's Edge.
Dad's Edge.
Larry started the Dad's Edge to be a better father. He's built this amazing organization around it and has been able to serve so many men around the country around that. But it all started because, a little selfishly, I wanted to be a better dad. And so with that in mind, I was like, well, I want to work better with my wife. I want to build something better with my wife. The best way for me to do that is to start interviewing people around it. And then already I'm learning there's frameworks and commonalities, and there is, habits and traits of the successful people of what they're doing together. Now, where I see this going, could be 12 months, could be 5 years. I don't know. But big retreats around this, because couples that are in business together, trying to be friends with non-business owners, it's a hard thing. Like it's very, I can't go talk to my son's parents, right? Or the son's friend's parents about, we had, our biggest month yet. It was 6 figures when they're working a 9-to-5 job. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just, it's very hard for me to talk to them about it.
Yeah. Not everybody knows how to receive that in a way that's not judgmental or comparison.
Correct. And it's funny because they went and judged the 0 months.
Nobody wants to trade you for the months where you don't know which way is up and what's gonna pay for what.
But other entrepreneurs do, and other, so I want to build a community around that, because I think it's an untapped niche, if you will. But it's like, that's who I am. These are my people, and I want to build community around it. So that's kind of where it's going.
I don't disagree with you. I think it is an underserved area. And, what's interesting about what we talk about is like, we even like when we did those events. So Dustin and I would put on some in-person events for, some of the businesses that we run. We would do some trainings, and like when you're doing an event for entrepreneurs on, how to triple your revenue or increase this or whatever, the room's full. And then the moment you flip the script and you're like, hey, if you're a dad who struggles with X, Y, and Z, it's like crickets. Everybody wants to learn how to triple their business, but nobody wants to admit that they got a problem.
Right.
Even though some of us dads are silently struggling and dying on the inside and are just yearning for somebody to act like, look, everyone asks, are you okay? And you're like, I'm fine. And like, here's the thing. The reality is no dad's just fine. Like we're all figuring this thing out, and we need help. And yet to put yourself publicly out there in a room of strangers it's a tough thing. So these conversations just aren't being had enough in a safe environment where people are like, hey, you know what? These are our people. And then inviting people in, right? So if you're listening to this podcast with Dustin and myself on this conversation, this resonates with you, and there's a couple or another entrepreneur that needs to be hearing this. Number one, please share this with them. And then number two, reach out to any one of us and find out like what's the next event, what's the next opportunity, what's the next workshop, what's the next to get deeper into that conversation. So Dustin, what are some of the best ways that people can reach out and connect with you?
So on the socials, it's just Dustin Hoog. The last name is spelled Hoog. I didn't create it, but I promise you that's how it sounds and that's how it's spelled. Be real honest. But Facebook, I'm old. I'm in my 40s, so I like Facebook a lot. Instagram does work. It'll be slower because I don't check that as much. But those.
You're such a boomer.
I am, and I'm okay with that.
I just every time my kids, every year my kids get older and like the technology that they're using, and I'll tag my daughter on something on Facebook because she's finally has socials, and she's like, Dad, I never check Facebook. And I'm like, what? Where even are you? She's in Snapchat. She's snapping. None of that makes sense. Anyways, is there any last thing that you wanted to share with our world? Any message, any warning, any tip, right? Like in our world, it's like, okay, what is a strategy, a technique? What's one thing somebody can implement today to get closer to a life of no regrets?
Well, I think that's the thing right there. And I'll try to wrap this up quick. I live right across the street from an amazing, beautiful cemetery. And I think I heard it less, and I walk that cemetery a lot when the sun's up, not at night, not at 5 in the morning. That's a little creepy. But, I think I heard Les Brown say it the first time, and it's the saddest thing in a cemetery is not the people who have went, but it's the dreams that went with them. Right? So with that is right now you have a decision. You have a choice to stop living with regrets. Like you have it. It's not over. If you're listening to this, if you're seeing this, you have the opportunity in front of you to stop living with those regrets and change. And it doesn't happen. It's just like, I changed.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't happen that way, but it's a constant, I want to do better tomorrow. I want to be better tomorrow than I was today. And that's what I would say. You have the choice right now to stop living with regrets.
Oof. Brother, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I really appreciate you and all the things you're doing. So again, if you're a couple that's in entrepreneurship together and you want a room and an environment to get into that conversation and talk about how you've built it together and how to keep building together, definitely reach out to Dustin. And again, if you're tired of winning on paper and losing everywhere else, click that subscribe button. Click, hit the like, comment, share. Let's get into the conversation. Here's to you. Here's to living a life of no regrets, guys. Thank you.